team can find you easier. And then once I see you pop up on the vMix host, I will begin to read the script. There we are. Beautiful. So let me give a moment here because my files are all over the place. I apologize. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. We are the Canadian Musicians Co-operative, a group of creatives that help our artistic community achieve excellence together and reduce the barriers to access, independent artists and professionals face in the 21st century. This workshop is presented as a part of our summer professional development programming series. We are very excited to introduce you to our guest speaker today for today's workshop, Kathryn Keenan. Kathryn Keenan is the Small Business Center Coordinator with InvestBerry, where they support aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners through education, resources, and one-on-one guidance. Kathryn works with individuals at all stages of the business journey, helping them navigate business planning, registration, financial fundamentals, and growth strategies. Through workshops, consultations, and community partnerships, Kathryn is passionate about making entrepreneurship more accessible and empowering people to turn their ideas into sustainable ventures. Without further ado, welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I am quickly going to bring up my screen here. I'm super excited to jump into all of this today. So again, thank you very much for having me here. And thank you to everyone who is taking the time to be here, watching the live stream, joining us right here in this webinar, this workshop today. I know that when you're building something or even just thinking about building something, time is the one resource we never have enough of. So the fact that you have blocked off this journey. As mentioned, my name is Kathryn, and I am the coordinator with the Small Business Center here in Barrie, Simcoe County, and Orillia. This first workshop, Building Your Business Blueprint, will help us validate, plan, and launch our business with confidence if you are in the process of launching your business. And since we're with the Canadian Musicians Co-operative today, I will be pulling examples, of course, from music careers all the way through recording and touring and teaching and merch and licensing and everything around them. I did my homework before coming here, my friends, so very excited. So let me tell you what this is essentially and what this isn't, because I do think expectations matter when we're hosting things like this. First and foremost, this is not a lecture. This is not where I talk at you about business theory for 2 hours and you leave with a binder full of notes that you never open again. This is actually a working session. We're going to move through the idea and the customer, the written plan, the setup, our decisions along the way, and then even tap into some financial next steps in this session. Deliberately in the order that a real business actually gets built, not the order as a business plan template might list them in. So you'll be doing some thinking and potentially some writing today. There are workshop activities built into this session as well, which of course I think was sent out to everybody a part of your crew. So my goal here is to basically not only leave you with information and these notes about your business, but have actionable items that you can take with you outside of this session and put everything that we're learning into good use. Of course, couple of ground rules, as always. If you have ever been a part of any of the Small Business Center webinars, we really like to emphasize the fact that there are no silly questions in this room, genuinely. Most of what we cover, nobody is born knowing, and we are here to support every business from every single stage and every single industry known to man. So on second hand, if something I say doesn't apply to your business, that's also totally fine. We're going to take what's useful and leave the rest. If it does apply, that's what you're going to hang on to. And third, of course, please jump into that chat box. This is much better as a conversation than a monologue. I'd love to know the industry that you're in. I know you're in the music industry, but if you're doing anything specific within the industry, I'd just like to be able to meet people and have a genuine conversation with them while I'm supporting you in learning all of the things. So before we dive in, I do want to ask, if possible, either in the chat, in the comments, let us know who here has something they're still figuring out. Maybe it's a project or a service or a launch, who is like the bare minimum kind of put in line in a plan, and who is already kind of giggling and releasing tension, or even maybe teaching things that they already know, and who is also earning from these ideas that they might have. So if you do have a chat box in front of you or comments in front of you, let me know kind of what stage you're in, and or if you're somewhere in between all of the stages. So while you're typing away and jumping into things here, I do want to set up how this whole session is going to be structured, because there is logic to it. We do use the business plan as the spine of the entire conversation. Everything we talk about today will end up living somewhere inside of a business plan. And I want to reframe what that document is for you as well, right from the start. So instead of treating the plan as something you write and then at the end you either get money or you just put it away and never look at it again, we're going to treat it as if it is a solid tool you use along the way to make better business decisions. So there are 4 moves we're going to make today. First, we're going to prove our opportunity. This is validating the customer problem, doing our market research, and getting clear on your value. This is the part people skip. People tend to jump right into our next steps here, and this is the part that ends up costing the most when it is skipped. So this is something that we really want to highlight today. Second, just like our title says, we will be building out our blueprints. We're going to be looking at our company profile. We're going to be looking at our target market, talk about some marketing, talk about some pricing strategy. And this is where most of our writing and our activities actually comes into play, because yes, we're not just going to learn how to do it. We're actually going to try and do a little bit of it today. And I heard you were doing some of it tomorrow as well. Next, we're going to put it all into practice. We're going to make it operational. We're going to look at the structure, business registration, a little bit of banking, and how to protect yourself when you're in business as well. Going to look at it as the practical setup decisions that turn an idea into a legal functioning business. Fourth, and finally, to wrap up this presentation, we are going to start preparing our numbers, which will end up being a bridge into our second workshop next week, where we get into the actual numbers, the actual spreadsheets, and what all of that is. I know the scary one is next week, but we're going to prep you for it this week, before we jump into all of the numbers. So here is one thing that I want to kind of preface our next 2 workshops. Workshop number 1 is going to end up building the story of your business, and workshop number 2 is actually going to test that story with numbers. Kind of makes everything legit by the end of our second workshop. Those 2 things do also have to match. We have to kind of line everything up. So if your story says that you play intimate folk rooms around Simcoe County and your numbers assume festival-sized merch sales, we got to change up some stuff. One of those is obviously wrong. You're either being very modest and you're selling out stadiums, or we're over projecting our merch sales. So today is about making that story solid enough that the numbers have something real to sit on, and to move forward with. So before we go further, I do have to backtrack. Let me tell you a little bit about the Small Business Center and who we are, because a lot of people in this region don't actually know we exist. We're like a little well-kept secret here in Barrie. Of course, until they're deep into something and they really, really need support. But The Small Business Center is essentially a resource and a support hub for entrepreneurs in Barrie, Aurelia, and all across Simcoe County. And we're not just a one-off either. We're part of a province-wide network with more than 50 small business centers across Ontario. So if you do move, or if you're traveling, or if you have a partner in another region, there is a center for them too, as well as yourself, no matter where you're going across the province. What we actually do, practically speaking, is a number of things, but four main ones. One-on-one consultations where you sit down with myself, an advisor, and work through your specific situation. We also do business planning guidance. So this includes help with the exact document we're talking about today, and then training and workshops, just like this one. We also provide mentorships and referrals into programs, including potential funding and grant programs such as Starter Company Plus or Summer Company or other programs outside of our center as well. Here's the thing, all of that is free, completely free. That's usually the part people are surprised by. So I'm going to say it again. There's no charge. We are funded by the City of Barrie in the province of Ontario. And nope, there is no catch either. We are just here to help. The way I like to describe our role here is we are essentially resource matchmakers. Most people who come through our door don't need to know everything about their industry or their business all at once and be bombarded with a ton of information. They just need help figuring out what the next right step is. And then a connection to a tool or a program or a person that will support that best next step. So sometimes the most valuable thing we do in a meeting is tell someone which of out of three phone calls to make. Again, please also hear this because I do think it's the most important thing, especially on this slide that you see. You are not expected to know everything because no one does. Absolutely no one. Not a single entrepreneur knows everything about their industry and everything about their business. Not the people you see online, not the businesses you admire downtown. Everybody figures it out in motion as they're going. And these types of workshops and webinar is probably your next best step from where you are right now. So here's a roadmap for today, so we know exactly where we're headed. You can keep me accountable. I like to go on tangents. So again, utilize that chat if we get off topic. This is what we're doing. We're going to start by validating our idea, okay? This includes market research and understanding the customer's problem and building out your value proposition. Then we're going to build the plan itself. This is going to include some key pieces like our company profile, the target market, marketing, and pricing. We're going to take a short break in there as well, so that way you're not yelling at me in the chat that there's so much going on. And after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to set it up. We're going to look at your structure, look at registration, your business number, a little bit of banking, and how to protect yourself as a business owner as well. We're then going to close by previewing the financials, the startup costs, the sales forecast, the cash flow, and taxes. This is going to be very, very high level in this session because it does bring us to workshop 2 next week. I do also want to point out one thing about how this is organized as well. This workshop, I believe I mentioned this, follows the logic of actually building the business, not the table of contents on a business plan template. A business plan template will end up listing the executive summary first. But of course, if you know anything about summaries, you can't write a summary if you haven't figured out the rest of your content yet. So we're going to build it in order of how you would approach and actually starting a business versus writing out a document. So every single thing we're going to cover today does belong somewhere inside the business plan. And I will tell you where it should go as we go on through this presentation. This is all deliberate. I want you leaving again with a mental filing cabinet. So when you sit down to write it, you know exactly which drawer everything goes into versus starting with the executive summary and trying to work your way through page by page. So again, if at any point you're thinking, why are we spending time on this? Why do I need to know this? The answer will almost always be that it feeds a decision that you have to make based on your business or a section you're going to have to write within your business plan. So, one practical note, we'll have a 5 minute break as noted, roughly halfway. So, if you do need to step out, please come back because we got to make sure all of the pieces that we're learning about goes into operations. So, let's start with framing because how you think about a business plan completely changes how useful it is to you. A business plan is a blueprint. It's essentially a roadmap. It's not homework. It's not a one and done document. You don't write it out once just for the bank and then never look at it again. And it's definitely not a test or a trial and tribulation that you can fail. So let's unpack it a little bit. It is a living document. It will describe your business objectives and the strategies for achieving them. Now, here's the thing. Living is the key word here because we should be updating things as we learn and as we live. Your strategies and your objectives will change as your business progresses. And that's exactly why we come back to this document and we revamp it based on our learnings, based on our findings, based on what happened the year before, 5 years before, and what we're expecting to happen in the next 5 years. It is a roadmap for decision making. It's a roadmap for marketing, for operations, for your growth strategies. So when you're deciding whether to say yes to an opportunity or you have to see if it fits into where we're going, it's the plan that you check any opportunity that arises against. You make sure that it fits into this plan that we're building out here. And it is okay to pivot. Like I said, it's a living document, but sometimes especially as an entrepreneur, we get so excited about ongoing opportunities that we miss the scope. We miss the direction on which we're trying to head. So the business plan also reflects it's how you communicate your business clearly to potential lenders and funders and partners and also business advisors too. So if you ever are looking for financial options or looking to expand or grow or bring in a partner, this is the document that you're going to utilize to get there. It's also, as I mentioned, could help you explain yourself to a potential partner or to a first employee, or if you are in the music industry as well, it kind of showcases why they should hire you for an ongoing event or anything. What is your kind of plan of action that you have happening here? And it may be the most valuable place to turn to for your assumptions as well. So if we are assuming that the industry is headed in a certain direction, or we are assuming that something is happening one way, we're able to take our evidence and kind of back it up within our business plan in order to confirm or completely go against our assumptions, which is also a-okay. Everybody starts with assumptions. We kind of make the joke that everything that we put in the business plan is make believe until it's not. And then we revamp it, add in our concrete evidence, and then we go back to trying to make it make believe again, or make believe again, which is exactly our financial projections, our assumptions, our growth strategies, everything else that's in it. It's where our business hopes and dreams live. This plan also does help you connect the dots. That's the phrase I'd underline. Your pricing connects to your costs, which connects to your operations, which connects to your cash flow. Most business problems aren't one bad decision. They might be two decisions that just didn't line up together. And here's the real payoff too. The plan also helps you make decisions early while changing your mind is still cheap and isn't going to cost you a ton of dollars. Changing your mind on paper might cost an afternoon and a little bit of your time. Changing your mind after you booked a 20-date tour or pressed 500 copies of a record costs considerably more. So this is why we also need a little bit of a plan before we move forward. Also, has anyone here already started writing a business plan? If you have, let me know. If you haven't, also let me know. I'm curious in the chat, in our chat box here. And if you have started writing one too, I want to know what the hardest part has been so far as well. So let me know. Yes, drop it in the chat. I am curious. Okay, a lot of people have not. So this session is exactly for you. Okay, perfect. If you have, everything you've been doing is wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Probably not. You're probably on a good track, but okay, a lot of no's. Amazing. Excellent. Well, welcome to your first business plan writing session. So a lot of people do get intimidated by the business plan, which I'm not sure if that's why a lot of you haven't started. Oh, I see somebody in the chat has done market research. Market research has my entire heart. So you knew exactly what to say to me. Um, but yeah, a lot of people do get intimidated by the business plan because they picture this like thick, big binder, 40 page. I need to know everything about everything. With no starting point, they just think it needs to have a stack like this of operational procedures. It does get dramatically easier writing a business plan when you realize each section does have one job. And no, it does not have to be this big binder of 100 pages or even 40 pages. I've read business plans that are 5 pages long and just get right to the point. But I do want to walk you through 7 main sections of a business plan, okay? Number one, of course, is the executive summary. As mentioned, we write this last, always, even if it's first on the page, because you need information to summarize before you go and summarize it. Your executive summary is just going to cover everything in the business plan in one big picture. Basically, if somebody opens up a book and they want to, actually, it's normally the back of the book, and they want to figure out what is in the book, you're reading the executive summary. That's why it's on page 1. Our first actual main section will be the company profile. The company profile will end up answering what is the business and why does it even exist and who is behind it and what makes this business credible. Why are the people running it? Our next section is our market analysis as well. This is one of my favorite parts and the biggest part of the business plan. Is there a real opportunity here? Are we wasting our time and money? Do we need to pivot before we even get started? Is there an area for potential here? This is essentially your evidence section. This is where your research goes. This is where your competitors go. This is where industry context goes. You name it. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of the business plan. This is what tells us it's all worthwhile. Our target market is our next section too. And of course, for everybody, right? That's what we write in our target market section is we're marketing to everybody. Everybody will buy our product or listen to our music or anything like this. Please do not write everybody. We need to get so specific on our target market. Not everyone with money, not everyone who has the ability to listen, not everybody who likes to wear a t-shirt. It cannot be everyone like that. We do have to get super specific in our target market. We'll tap on this later. Next is our marketing and our pricing answer as well. How will customers find you and why will they pay what you're asking is a big question. And we do have to kind of back this up with realistic facts, not just because we think we're the greatest thing ever and they're going to pay whatever we want. We also have to look at positioning and channels and what other people are doing in terms of pricing and the cost of even us offering these products and services too, which also kind of runs into our operations and our structure. And really looking at how the business runs, like actually runs day to day, suppliers, our space that we need, legal structure, systems that we have in place, all of that will also support us with knowing what our pricing strategy should be. And then, of course, everything kind of ends up leading to our financial plan too, and our appendices. Financial plan is essentially, do the numbers support this story? Do we have concrete evidence within our numbers, mathematically speaking, that backs up everything that we've said in the business plan? And then your appendices is really where the readers check the homework. This is where all of our information is going to live. If you are in your pricing or financial or inside your financial plan writing up startup costs, and you say that a tour bus is going to cost this amount and a new guitar is going to cost this amount and pressing records is going to cost this amount, in your appendices is where I want to see those quotes. I want to see where exactly you found out a tour bus costs X amount of money. I want to see where exactly your marketing materials cost X amount. I want to see why you think you should press X amount of records and pay this much for it. This is where I want to see all that research, all that information. That's it. 7 questions, 7 sections. If you can answer those 7 honestly, you have a business plan. Regardless of how pretty the document looks, regardless of how much information you needed to answer each question, that's all you need within a business plan. So I would keep this slide handy because I will refer back to it a little bit all day. Every topic we hit, I want you to be able to go, okay, that goes into this section, especially because how you're looking at it on the screen is how it should be inputted into the business plan. But we're changing things up within this presentation and presenting it in a way of how, well, which areas we should tackle first versus what areas come next within writing out the actual business plan. And here's also a tip too. If you're staring at a blank page this week, don't try to write it front to back. Pick the section you know the most about. It's usually the company profile or your operations, and write that first. Momentum, when it does come to structuring things like this, matters way more than the order. And if you are in school still or have not went to school but are planning to go in school, please also remember that when you are doing any other version of homework, because that is something I wish somebody told me a decade ago, that you don't have to start from the beginning. You do not have to start from once upon a time. You pick the section that you know the most and you just start writing. Everything else will come. One more thing here too. A reader, like a lender or an advisor, reads for consistency between these sections as well. So if your target market ends up saying seniors and your marketing plan is all about TikTok and Instagram, they will notice. I don't know about everyone else's grandma, but my grandma isn't on TikTok. So we got to make sure that things are lining up here as well. The sections do have to agree with each other. They do have to work in tandem. They do have to support each other. Okay, all that talking, we're not even at part 1 yet. Part 1, we are going to prove our opportunity here, where we start here for a specific reason. Yes, take a screenshot of the slides, 100%. Before you spend any money, before you waste a ton of time doing a lot of things, before you register anything, before you write things in stone, before you build your website or order signage or print off a million things, you want evidence that there is a real customer with a real problem who is willing to pay for a real solution. And this problem too, it doesn't have to be a big problem. We talked about this a little bit as well. They just have to have a need. They have to have a need or a want or something that they're trying to solve. And we have to make sure that it's actually there and they're willing to pay for it. It sounds obvious when I say it out loud. You have to make sure that people are wanting to buy the things you're offering, but it's actually the most common and most expensive mistake. I see someone completely falling in love with a solution and only later checking whether everybody else wanted it. Turns out they had one person, themselves, maybe a sister. So this order actually matters. Problem first, solution second. Make sure that there's a need there or a want there first before we go and try and solve it. Market research is how you get that evidence. So the person that said market research in the chat, You got it. This is exactly what you need to do is look at the market research, figure out the problem, and then dive in. And in plan terms, essentially, that payoff is 100% direct. Market research is what lets you write a strong market analysis instead of a page of just optimistic guessing, saying that you think people will enjoy this, you think people will buy this. We need some concrete evidence here. So over this next stretch in part one, we're going to cover four things here: what problem you're actually solving and how to think about the customer's current situation, how urgent that problem really is. So we'll use a simple test for that, and how to see your business through the customer's eyes. We as entrepreneurs love to have our rose-colored glasses on when it comes to a new business idea or a new opportunity that we see, but we really have to take those off and look at it through a consumer's perspective. And then, of course, we're also going to tap into where to actually go to find this research that I speak of without spending money that you don't have. Yes, I'm not just going to tell you you have to go do market research and then throw you to the wolves and make you come up with how to do focus groups and all that jazz. We're going to tell you how to actually figure it out as well. So I will say one reassuring thing as well. Validation isn't a pass or fail exam either. It's not that it's a good idea or a bad idea. They're all good ideas. Sometimes they're just aimed at the wrong customer or priced wrong or launched at the wrong time. These are what we call our pivot points here. The point of this section is to find those pivot points, find those adjustments, and make them early while they're still easy to make before we lose our marbles or our wallets over a lot of this, okay? So let's anchor this in plan language first. The section we're building here is towards the market analysis. This is where I think this could work becomes here's what we know and why it may work or why we have to pivot. This whole transformation, or that's the whole transformation this section performs essentially. So what's the job of this section? Four things: shows that there's a real opportunity, explains the customer problem clearly, identifies your competitors and alternatives customers may potentially be using today, and back up your claims with actual research rather than assuming everything, okay? So what goes in it? Industry context. We want to know what's happening in your sector, generally speaking. Customer needs, so what your specific customers are struggling with. We want to look at competitor research. Who else solves this and how well they're solving it. Not all ideas have to be net new. There could potentially be ideas out there that are similar to yours, but maybe they're just not doing it right, or maybe they're not doing it for a niche market, or maybe there's just another way to kind of revamp their idea. So it doesn't necessarily have to be brand spanking new, never been done before. It can evolve in or be an idea that has evolved into something else. We also have to look at market size and scope too. Just because there are a couple of customers out there doesn't mean that there's enough to actually have your business sustainable. So we have to look at how many potential customers exist in your area or even in your niche in general. And trends or evidence as well. Anything showing where things are headed. If we decide that things are trending downward and in a year from now, they're not going to be popular anymore, why are we spending the next year trying to develop it, trying to go for it? Why aren't we following what's going on an upward curve, right? Underneath all of this is one big question. Is this the right time, the right place, and the right customer for this business to exist? Okay. Notice that all three parts of that. Just take a look at all three parts. A good idea in the wrong location fails. A good idea in 5 years too early or 5 years too late fails. Same idea, different timing, completely different outcome. So here's why I'd spend some real effort here. This is going to be the most I'm going to make sure that you work on. Market analysis is the validation section of your entire plan and your entire business. If your plan gets challenged anywhere by a lender or an advisor or a skeptical family member or anything like that, it gets challenged here. How do you know this is what the people want? How do you know this will succeed? Those are main questions that every entrepreneur hears. This is the section that answers that. This has your answer. And a practical note here as well. This is also the section that's easiest to improve. It's really easy to pivot from here. You can strengthen it in a week with a handful of conversations and an afternoon of research. Very few sections give you that much return that fast. So it's really important that we dive into this one first and give it our absolute all. So let's start with where every good business starts or every idea starts. And that's honestly with a problem. I've recommended to numerous entrepreneurs that are just like, I want to get into business, but I have no idea where to start. I don't know how to come up with a business idea. What do I do? Walk around with a notebook, write down every single thing that ticks you off. You will have a business idea after that. Well, write out everything that is at a minor annoyance up to a really big issue that kind of diverted your whole day. Write it out. A business idea will come from this because businesses that last are built from problems consumers genuinely care about. It's something that a customer really wants solved. Now, here's a bit of the nuance though. Not all problems carry the same urgency or the same value. And we keep using the terminology problems, but it could just be a minor annoyance, something that you don't know that you need fixed until it's kind of in your face, right? Some problems keep people up at night and they'll pay almost anything to make them go away, and others are just mildly irritating, like a tiny little sliver. And people just end up living with them. They don't go out of their way to fix it. It's still a problem though, it's still a minor annoyance. Um, Only one of them is a great well-established business, and the other one can potentially be a business, but we have to kind of talk it up a little bit. So here's the thing people also tend to forget. Your customer is not doing nothing today. They have already found a workaround, even at the slightest minor inconvenience, whether it is a competitor or a habit or a do-it-yourself solution. They're just doing something different. Nobody is sitting around waiting for a business idea to come along. So validation does definitely start with understanding their current situation, not just admiring your idea. So let me give you an example on this. Say you want to offer a recording and mixing for independent artists. Your customer's current situation isn't that there's no music. There's a lot of music. It's a friend with a laptop and a decent interface or a preset back when they um bought it online for a while ago, or but they can't put it all together, or simply releasing something that already sounds fine to them but could potentially be better. Those are your real competitors in a situation like this, not the other studio across town that's doing the same thing for the same price. It's somebody finding a solution or trying to solve the solution themselves and not knowing that you can do it better, faster, for a price, and they can kind of have what they want in a much better model type thing. Same with teaching. Your competition isn't the other guitar teacher. It's actually YouTube and people's busy schedules type thing. It's doing it yourself. It's the TikTok follow along and strum guitar with me. And them claiming that you can work it into 5 a.m. sessions and or fiddle around at 11 p.m. The guitar teachers and the other studios are doing the same thing you're doing, yes, but they're not fixing an area that your customer will potentially have. So here are the questions I would ask before building anything. What is the customer actually trying to accomplish? It's not just recording something or making music. It's they actually want an outcome along with their final product, right? What's frustrating to them, or what's expensive, or what's slow, or what's risky or inconvenient, or how are they actually doing it now without you and without similar businesses to yours too. Those 5 words, frustrating, expensive, slow, risky, or inconvenient, are those are your openings. That is the gap that we want to fill. That's where we want to dive into. So what would have to be true for them to switch to you? What can you offer within those 5 words that sparks, hey, I actually do need you? That last one is a hard question, and it's one people normally skip, but it is the one that we have to pay the most attention to and really ask ourselves, what do they actually want? Do they want a convenient recording studio that's open up all hours of the night? Do they want something that's a little bit less expensive? Do they want someone that's going to record and mix and produce and do all of the things that they have no idea how to do, and they just come in and they want to jam? Um, it's definitely something that we have to figure out how we're going to solve it. Switching costs, or switching what they're doing now to what you think they should be doing, or to your business, cost your customer time, it costs them money, and it costs them comfort too. And people are creatures of habits. So even switching to something better that we know is better is kind of bringing them out of their comfort zone too. So you have to be worth that friction, not just marginally better. You have to make it worth their while, essentially. So this is the move from I have an idea to I understand a problem that I'm trying to solve. And honestly, the second one is worth far more than you just having a business idea and wanting to start a business. So this kind of brings us to our little test here. This simple test is pretty much a gauge. It's used for gauging urgency in what you're trying to solve. You're going to basically ask yourself, is your idea a painkiller or a vitamin? A painkiller solves a meaningful problem. It's something that needs to be solved because everyone's going out of their minds trying to find a workaround for it. It's something urgent, potentially it's something expensive and you can lower the cost, or it's something risky and you can make it safer, or it's genuinely so annoying and nobody else has figured out how to do something better. That customer will already want it fixed. You already have customers. If you find a fix for that problem or a solution for that problem, your customers will come to you. They will find you. They need this to happen. There is a key phrase there, which is already wants. They're actively looking for you. You don't have to convince them that the problem exists at all. You just have to convince them that you're the right solution. So in our worlds, a mix that has to be fixed before a release date is an urgent problem, right? A producer who can turn a rough demo into something a playlist will take, or someone who can handle the royalty paperwork an artist has been avoiding for 2 years. These are painkillers. These are solvable painkillers. These are things that need to absolutely happen. Now, a vitamin on the flip side is just a nice to have. It might be genuinely useful. It might even be good for them, and and they might agree it's good for them too, but customers might not prioritize paying for it right now. It's something where it's like, okay, maybe when I grow, maybe when I do this, then I'll jump into it. And vitamins are the first thing that also gets cut when money is tight when it comes to your customers too. So think general build your brand's course, or a tool that saves artists 20 minutes a month scheduling posts. They're useful, they're good, but it's usually the first line item cut when if a tour is losing money or there's just not enough capital there to keep it. So why does this matter so much? Because it does change everything downstream. Painkillers are easier to sell, to tolerate higher prices, and need way less marketing um, and spend on marketing to convince people that they need it. Vitamins end up needing more education, more marketing, and usually a lot more patience. And your cash flow has to survive that longer runway as well. Now, I want to be very clear on something because people hear this test and they do get discouraged about their idea, thinking maybe I'm a vitamin, maybe I'm not a painkiller, is even worth it. If your idea feels like a vitamin, that's not a good reason to throw it out. Okay. The goal isn't to reject your idea. The goal is to understand what would make it more valuable or exactly what our marketing tactics should be surrounding this vitamin versus a painkiller that doesn't necessarily need a lot of marketing tactics. There are usually four levers as well. A different customer, same product, but sold to somebody for who may think that your idea is a painkiller versus a vitamin. A sharper problem, narrowing it down or niching it down, what you solve so it hurts a little more, reminding them that it's a little bit more of a painkiller than a vitamin and also better timing, connecting to a moment where that need spikes as well, or just different packaging. Sometimes bundling it with something people are already buying is also a great way to kind of throw a painkiller and a vitamin at the same time type thing. So take a quiet minute to think about your idea or think about your business that you're working on and think if it's a painkiller or a vitamin or if you're genuinely sorry not sure at all. Nobody has to share. You don't have to add this to the chat, but just be honest with yourself because being honest here will end up saving you money later. Okay? So just take it in. And we're going to talk about our next steps moving on to this as well. So now let's flip the perspective completely because this is where a lot of good ideas end up getting stuck. You know your idea from the inside. You've thought about it for months. Your customers thought about it for 0 seconds because we don't have any customers yet. That we just have an idea. They're asking exactly one question once this approaches them, and that is WIIFM, what is in it for me? Okay. That's not cynical, by the way. That's just how all of us buy things. Is it worth it? What's in it for me? So what does the customer need to hear? Three things. I keep saying the number four. For some reason, this one only has three. Number one, what problem, of course, are you solving? Stated in their words, not your industry words. What are you fixing? Number two, why is your solution easier, better, faster, safer, or more valuable than what they're doing now? Pick the one that matters the most to them. You cannot lead with all five. You cannot do all five things. We used to joke about a sales triangle. You can have something that's faster and better, or faster and cheaper, or cheaper and better, but you cannot have all three. We actually upped it to five. You cannot do all five. Do one thing really, really, really great. And why, of course, our third question, switching is worth the effort. Because remember, switching has a cost for them. People are a creature of habit. Even mentally, their capacity might not want to switch. How do we get them to do it? What's the worth? So notice how none of those questions are actually about you or your idea either. They're not about your credentials. They're not about your passion. They're not about how long you've dreamed of this. Those things matter for credibility later, which we're going to dive into, but they're not what opens the door. And what does your plan need to show? It needs to show a clear target customer, the specific pains and gains for that customer, evidence from your research and your actual conversations, and even better positioning than everyone can use this. We do not like to see that everybody can use this. Everyone can use this is not a target market. It's what we write when we haven't chosen our target audience yet. And I understand the instinct too, because narrowing feels like you're turning away money or you're missing gaps or consumers that potentially could be out there. But in practice, it's the opposite happens. When you speak to everyone, nobody feels spoken to, so nobody responds. Um, just think of it this way, us doing these types of webinars, I could potentially put this out and say anybody that has the slightest bit of a business idea needs to come in here and needs to watch this webinar. Not many people were going to take me up on that offer, but if we showcase it to a specific group of people with a specific need or with a specific problem, and we tell them, listen, this is going to help you build out your business plan if you listen to us, we now have a big group of people here listening to me. So use the WIIFM, what is in it for me, as a filter for the rest of your day. If a sentence in your plan doesn't answer it, it probably needs a little bit of a revamp as well. Okay. Now, so where does this evidence actually come from? People tend to get mad at me when I give you the first answer, but we're going to start broad. Google it. You can use Google searches, industry reports, competitor websites, reviews, and even social media to start your search. I do want to flag reviews and comments specifically because they are free and almost nobody minds them properly. If you're offering a service, studio lessons, rehearsal space, management even, go read the 1-star and the 3-star reviews of the people already doing it. 1-stars will tell you what's badly broken in your competitor and how to adjust it. And 3-stars are gold. I know everybody wants a 5-star. 5-stars are usually people being nice. 3-stars are the ones that we actually want to pay attention to. They're the ones that say, like, it's fine, but I wish. And there is opportunity within those sentences. These are potentially written by your future customer and they're usually free. So if you're an artist rather than a service provider, the equivalent is the comment sections or forums of Reddit or YouTube or something where fans say they want like a physical copy or a stripped back version of a song. Or a show that isn't a 2-hour drive away. That's what we're looking for, is that this is great, but you can also go direct to informal focus groups or one-on-one interviews, surveys, or just talk to your customers. 10 real conversations will teach you more than 100 hours of scrolling ever will. Ask you can even add, a tip on how to run them too. So ask about past behavior, not future intentions. Like, instead of would you buy this, right? What did you actually spend money on the last time you recorded? What was within your package type thing? That will end up getting you the truth, and they'll actually tell you what their expectations were versus what they got, versus asking them, what do you want type of thing. Use also your local resources too. My last little box here. A lot of local resources are free and most people never touch them. If you're in the Barrie area, the public library gives you access to Simply Analytics. For those of you who do not know what Simply Analytics is, it is a very expensive business database that those in the business industry and in marketing spend a lot of money to use. And people within the Barrie area get to use it with their library card for free. They also have a ton of business databases too. We're talking real demographics and spending data for that specific area in your specific industry, in your target or with your target audience, which is generally useful from when you're deciding which markets to go to or to add to a route or a tour through. There are community partners as well. You can also come and talk to us and we'll point you at the right one for your sector too. Sorry, everyone take a sip of water. I've been talking. And here's the reassurance on this too, because I know research can feel bottomless. Your evidence does not need to be perfect either. So it's time to take a break, I think. Um, but that's the bar. You're not writing a thesis. This isn't supposed to be this big. This is what I'm solving, and this is what needs to happen within our business. A good rule here is just research until your answers start repeating, until you see a little bit of a trend. When the fifth conversation tells you what the third one is, you got your pattern and you're good to go. Put the research away, add it to your business plan, move on, keep going. So we're going to put all this to work right now. This is our first activity, the customer problem, and in a little bit of a snapshot. So if you clicked on the link, grab your worksheet, screenshot this. There are 6 boxes. We're going to give you like 2 minutes just to jot down as many ideas as possible, and I'll walk through what I'm looking for in each one. Number 1, my business idea. This one should be easy. In one sentence or a couple of words, resist the urge to write a full paragraph, please. Just write down your idea. Next, your ideal customer. If anybody writes down everyone, I will start from the beginning of this presentation. It's not everyone. Write down who specifically, what age are they? Where do they go shopping? Who are they? Give them a name, give them an eye color. Really dive into who that exact target ideal customer is. Next, customer problem in their language, not yours. Write down what they might be having a problem with that you can solve. And then write their current solution. What do they do today without you? And remember, there's always something. There's always something that they're addressing, even a little bit. And then their reason to switch too. So what can you potentially do better? Why are you worth the friction of them switching over as well? Can you do it better, faster, less risky, etc.? And the evidence that you still need. This is the part that you're currently guessing at. That last box is going to be the most valuable one on this page, so please don't skip it. Knowing what you don't know yet is exactly what turns into your research. Because if you have all the answers to this, then you're already in a good spot, but we still have to build off of it with that last little bit of research. This turns into your to-do list for this week. Maybe we'll chat about it next week when I come back. I also hear that you're chatting about it tomorrow, so add this to your to-do list. Nobody's boxes are all filled with certainty. Mine wouldn't be either. I would, no matter what I was doing, I would still have to do market research around it, okay? Okay, take 2 minutes. I'm going to take a quick sip of water, and then we'll start with part 2. If you want to, while we're giving you 2 minutes, flag something with me, yeah, jump in the chat. Perfect. The activity is in the drive. Thank you, thank you. Yes, you can take it away and work on it yourself as well, but I like to give people something to do while they're hanging out with me. Okay, if you are interested and if the ideas are flowing, and you do want to share your customer problem and the reason for the switch, do it and add it to the chat. You don't have to share your idea with me, but if there is a problem and a reason to switch, I'm curious, stick it in the chat. We are going to move on to part 2. This is where it all comes in. Our last stretch was pretty decent in size. And the reason why, as I mentioned at the beginning, market research is the big one. It validates all the things that we think that we know. So we spent the entirety of the last stretch proving there's an opportunity. Now we're going to take that validated idea. We're moving on to the future. We've done our market research. We validated idea. We know that it's good. We have a problem, but everything's up, looking up. Now we're going to turn that into the core written sections of our business plan. Okay. This is where most of the actual writing happens in the plan. Your company profile, your target market, your marketing strategy, and your pricing. These four sections are what most people picture when they hear business plan, and they're the ones a reader spends the most time on. I love this. Thank you so much for adding it into the chat. So we have one here. There's a problem. I'm going to backtrack because I want to read this out. Problem: not enough access to experienced university level instructors. See, great problem for specifically for percussion and drum set. It says lacking someone to guide them throughout the learning process, too many cookie cutter courses, and not enough actual care or personalization. That is an amazing problem to think of. That is exactly how you should be writing it within a business plan. Thank you so much for jumping in here. And they added a solution too. Current solution for target market: Drumeo, YouTube tutorials, other ebooks or information overload, Instagram tutorials, self-learning. Oh my gosh, I see it though, and I'm guilty of it too, jumping on the piano and being like, oh, look, a TikTok video, and you learn the same 10 seconds of a song over and over and over and over again, and I'm still not getting it. 100%. Thank you so much for adding that into the chat, because it is an outstanding example of what we're trying to talk about here. Amazing. Thank you. Okay. So back to building out that blueprint. So we see we have a current solution, we have a problem. Our idea is probably surrounding these two on what we're trying to bring to life here. And now we're going to take all that and we're going to put it into our business plan here. So here's the connection I want you holding on to throughout this entire section. Everything that we do now should be built on what we just validated, what we just figured out, okay? These sections aren't creative writing sections. They're your document, they're you documenting decisions you've already made evidence for, okay? So if your target market in this section doesn't match the customer you described 20 minutes ago, there's a signal that something needs adjusting, or something needs some work on. And that's a good thing to catch now on paper rather than after you've printed out a bunch of business cards and have distributed them everywhere. So one practical framing as we go as well. For each of these sections, I will tell you what belongs in it and what purpose it serves for the reader of the business plan, because the reason that plans get essentially not written so well is usually that people don't know what the section is supposed to accomplish, and they're just trying to throw words down on paper. So let's dive in. Our first section is our company profile. This should be an easy peasy lemon squeezy section. Sometimes you get a little bit lost in the sauce though. This is where you explain what the business is and why the business exists, okay? Its purpose for the reader is credibility. By the end of this section, somebody should think, okay, I understand this business and I believe the person behind it can actually run this business as well. So what goes in it? What the business does, in plain English, as plainly as possible, your products and services, your mission, vision, and goals, ownership, and any relevant experience that you bring to the table, and your competitive advantage. What do you do that others don't, or what do you do differently? Now, let me say a word about the mission and vision, because they're where people kind of freeze up a little bit. You don't need corporate poetry, but who am I kidding? Half of you guys in here are probably a bunch of artists. You can whip that out like no problem. But you don't need to. You don't need corporate poetry. The mission is just what you do and who it's and for whom it's for today, and your vision is where you're headed. That's it. To honest sentences, be an entire paragraph of buzzwords every single time. So don't think that you have to be fancy with your writing. Just let us know, what are you doing and for whom, and where exactly are you headed, or do you envision yourself heading? So here's a prompt that I actually genuinely find useful. If someone had 60 seconds to understand your business, what would they need to know? Write that down. That is your company profile in draft form. And it is usually better than what people produce when they're trying to sound official and trying to make it sound great. I don't want you to try and make it sound great and official. You already had me hooked a couple sections ago in our executive summary. This is concrete information here. Now, one caution, and I do see this constantly, that this section should build credibility without also turning it into a life story. Your relevant experience matters enormously, especially if you played 300 shows or engineered records people have heard of, or handled booking a venue for the past 5 years, or sold out stadiums. Lead with that. I want to know who you are and what you have accomplished, but your entire career history does not belong. I don't need to know that your great uncle gifted you a ukulele at 3 years old, and now here at 47, you have finally decided to get into business for yourself. We don't need to know that. We want to know what makes you the best person for the job. Okay. So test each detail. Does this make a reader more confident that I can pull off this job or pull off this business? If yes, keep it. If it's just background or fluff to make it sound great, cut it out. Okay. Short and credible beats long and personal here every single time. And the competitive advantage line is the one that you should spend the most time on. That is actually the sentence that people remember, or the couple of sentences that people end up remembering. Now, target market. Who is it? Who is it really for? Who is your actual customer? And the fun thing about a target market, when we are building out our ideal customers, we actually go through the exercise that we create a person. We actually give them a name and a personality and tell us where they shop and how many kids they have and what kind of car they drive and all these kinds of things. We envision this person. It makes our marketing easier, and it makes so many other things easier when we are giving our business to this person that we know wants it. So the purpose of this entire section is focus. Everything downstream, your marketing, your pricing, your location, even your hours of operation, everything gets easier once we lock this in and get super, super specific. And everything downstream gets harder when it isn't locked in here. So I know narrowing, as mentioned, feels risky. It feels like we're turning away business. It feels like we're missing a ton of customers. But it actually helps. Here's what actually happens. The more specific customer we have, the better plans we end up making, the better pricing, the dramatically better marketing decisions. And we can actually write a message that lands to that specific target customer too. You cannot write a compelling message to everyone. Okay. So we need to get specific across our 4 dimensions, which is our demographics, age, income, occupation, family status, or whatever traits are genuinely relative to that business. Our lifestyle, which is our values, their priorities, their interests, their needs, their buying motivators, our behaviors as well, what triggers a purchase, their buying habits, their decision making, what they're reviewing, what they're referring, even their online behavior. And scope too, where these people live and work and see live music. For a lot of music careers, that's a very practical question. Where are they going? How are they listening to music? How are they enjoying the things that you all are providing, right? So what you're aiming for here is a best fit customer profile, not everyone who could potentially buy. This is the best of the best. Top line. This we know will absolutely absolutely buy what we're selling. And the person most likely to buy soonest and be happiest afterwards as well. And again, just notice that this should be the same person you described during the validation exercise. If it isn't, then two quick things need to be updated. Do a quick gut check. Sorry, could you picture one specific real life person who fits this profile? If you can't, keep narrowing it down. Just keep just keep turning the focus up a little bit here. Now we have to ask ourselves, how will these customers find us? Okay, that's our marketing strategy. And again, makes it a lot easier now that we know exactly who is looking for us. The purpose of this section is to show that you have a realistic, affordable way to reach the people you just described, not the most exciting way, the most realistic way. Okay, how are we going to bring in that person we designed? Marketing is not about being everywhere. It's about being where your customers already are. Okay. A lot of people also, and we'll talk about channels in a second here, but think marketing, it has to be on social media. I have to have an Instagram account. I have to do this. I have to do that. You don't actually, because if your target audience is not there, then why are we being there? On the flip side, too, that ideal customer persona that we built out, if they're looking for you, they're not scrolling for hours and hours on a social media channel trying to find you. They are going to utilize search and website, or look at referrals, or look at local partnerships, or even see if there's a community presence out there to find what they're looking for. So when we're talking channels, social media is more or less a nice to have to showcase your business to people who didn't know that they needed a solution to their problem. All the other ones are those who are actively looking for a solution to their problem. So we need to make sure that we have our focus on a little bit of both. You're going to pick two or three specifically in channels of what actually fits your customer and where they actually spend the most time. Then we're going to focus on our message. What will customers hear that will make your value obvious? This is where your what's in it for me work will end up paying off. Okay, this is where we're really going to bring it to life. Your message should name the problem, not just the product. Then, of course, budget and rhythm. Budget is something I bring up all the time when talking about a marketing strategy, specifically for those who are angling on social media. And the reason why is because people think that they have to dump a ton of money into social media in order to advertise their business to get potential customers. But my friends, if your social media page, if your Instagram page is blank, if you have two posts up on there and somebody clicks on your ad and it brings it to your profile, I hate to break it to you, but you look like a scam. Yeah, you're not looking as credible as you think you are. So sometimes holding back that marketing budget and putting our focus on organic marketing strategy, meaning building it out for free before we put money behind it, making us look credible organically before putting money behind it, is actually a way better strategy than just throwing a ton of money out there and spending a ton of money on social media ads. Okay. With rhythm is the piece people tend to skip, and it's the piece that matters most, especially if you're musicians. Just kidding. I figured I'd stick the joke in there somewhere. I'm pretty sure we have a drummer in the chat, but we do have to make sure that we are on beat when it comes to our posting schedules and our marketing schedules. Consistency beats intensity every time as well. So a modest plan will actually have you actually maintain for a year will outperform a massive launch followed by 6 months of complete silence on social channels too. And that huge launch will end up costing you a lot more money as well. So consistency is key here. So this section ends up becoming your practical bridge between knowing your target market and actually doing something about it and putting your business in front of that target market too. Yeah. Okay. Pricing. So this is the one that makes people uncomfortable. And this is a lot of the ones where you kind of have two different sides of the coin. You're either insanely modest about your pricing, or You think that you can charge a lot more than everybody else because of what you're offering. But we really want to be systemic rather than emotional about our pricing choices. Okay. The purpose of this section is to show you that price is a decision, not a guess, and that your price has to line up with my number four things again: your costs, your competitors, the value that you deliver, and your customer expectations. Look outward first. What are competitors charging? What does the customer that you created expect to pay? Because they will always have a number in mind. And even if they can't articulate it, and what price point um, shapes perception in your market as well, and how they view you too. Then we look inward. What are your actual costs, including the ones you're forgetting about? Supplies, software, insurance, travel, the fees on every single card payment, different things like that. How much of your time is involved? And are you paying yourself for that time too? Most new businesses actually completely undervalue and underprice because they're leaving their own labor out of the map. And I understand that sometimes you have to build up to a certain price point. That's also something you take into consideration, okay? As well as what margins you need for this to be sustainable. We do not go into business to be broke all the time. We go into business to make sure that we can sustain our livelihood. Doesn't mean that we're going to get rich and famous. It does mean that we are going to be able to live while running our business, okay? Then we make a deliberate choice. Are we cheaper? Are we on par? Or are we a premium price? And crucially, why? Why did we choose this route at all? Okay, because your price will end up sending a message way before you say even a word about your business. If you're the cheapest, customers will form an assumption about your quality, whether or not it's fair, and you've made it very hard to end up raising your prices later. If you're at a premium, that's a legitimate strategy, but you have to deliver an experience that justifies it as well. You have to be there. The service, the packaging, the responsiveness all have to kind of match what our premium pricing is too. So, I'll also say competing on price is the hardest game to win, because someone will always be able to play it cheaper, or especially in music, especially if you're doing tours and gigs and you're just kind of jumping out, there's always somebody that's going to unfortunately be able to play it for free just for the love of the game. So discounting your rate to get the booking is a decision you make once, uh, and then live with, because that venue now knows what your number is. So make sure that we're making these choices, and competing on value and service or specialization, being more defensible versus just a undercutting price for the next guy type thing. This slide is actually our first real bridge into workshop two, too. Your pricing decision becomes your revenue assumptions. So the number that you land on here shows up in every single spreadsheet we build in the next section. Your sales forecast, your cash flow, your profit loss, all of it. So it's worth getting thoughtful about it now and really considering what your pricing strategy is now. Okay. Okay, another activity, and then we're going to take another little break. Um, so for our second activity, we have a mini business plan builder. So this one pulls together everything from our session that we just went, or our section that we just went through. 6 boxes. Number one is your company profile. In one sentence, please, what the business is and who it is for. Number two, your best fit customers. We kind of already did this. But remember, specific. If you can't picture one real person, just keep narrowing it down until we do, until we really, really see what kind of person it is. Next is your value proposition. This is your answer to the what's in it for me in the customer's language. One marketing channel you're going to commit to, okay? Just one to start. We can always add more later, but pick the one that you're actually going to maintain and that fits your customer the best. Next is your pricing approach. And I don't need a number here. I need to know if you want to be cheaper than your competition, if you want to be on par with your competition, or a premium. And I want to know why. One line. That's it. And then, of course, the last box again is your homework. It's going to be written by you rather than assigned by me. And that is exactly the homework that you're going to do. So, again, take a couple of minutes to do this. Next up, we are going to have a little bit of a quick break too. So, I'm just going to leave this slide up. Take an extra couple of minutes, maybe 4 minutes. If you have any questions, so far, please pop them in the chat and hang out with me. I'll hang out here while I'm drinking water and answer some questions. If not, take 4 or 5 minutes, stretch, grab a coffee. We're almost towards the end. So also, if you're stuck on value proposition, you can try this sentence pattern. I help specific customer who struggle with problem by solution so they can, what's your outcome? It is clunky, but it does force all pieces out of you as well. So let's see if I can add this to our chat here too. Yes, thank you. Claire's on it. Thank you. Thank you, Claire. If you do want to type your value proposition in the chat too. I'm also happy to read this out. Usually when you get somebody else to read it out, or if you just read it out loud yourself too, and you hear it, it's usually a good test if it's a good value proposition. If it is hard to say, it's usually hard to understand, which means we got to do a little bit of rewriting there too. And I don't see questions coming in the chat. So this can be one of two things. Either everybody is sleeping or I'm doing a really great job. Amazing. Yeah, we've done this before. We keep our names out. Yeah, shake the nerves off. Amazing. Yes, please. I hope that answered your question. It is 3:30. We are going to jump back into our presentation. We only have a couple sections left. Our number one section is going to be the making all of this plan operational and jumping into exactly how to start a business. And then our fourth section is just going to be a little tidbit on what we're going to be diving into in our next workshop next week. So let's get into making the plan operational. I do see questions coming up in the chat too, and I will answer them as soon as we're done our next couple of sections here. So part 3, making it the plan, actually rolling it out, making it operational, turning it into an actual business, not just words on paper. So everything up until now has been building a story. Okay. This section is where that business becomes real: structure, registration, banking, insurance, all of the practical setup, and the decisions that come along with it. The theme here is that every one of these decisions should support the plan that we built, not fight it. Your legal structure should match the type of business you're actually building and the risk you're carrying. Your registration path follows from your name and your structure. Your protection needs to follow directly from your operations. So I want to name a pattern I see a lot too in putting your operations into play, because you can avoid it. People often do this part first in a bit of a panic. They incorporate before they validate anything, or they register a name for a project that changes shape 3 months later. Bands do a version of this too. Everyone agrees on the name, and then nobody agrees on it, and in writing on who owns it, and shares aren't actually being distributed, and no one knows who the actual owner of the band is, or if it's completely split. People assume it's the lead guitarist or the lead singer or something like that. We've watched it happen time and time again. We know that Finger 11 used to have a different band name. I don't know if anybody knows what it is. Please do not tell me. We are on a live webinar. We used to have all kinds of artists that have switched and flipped and kicked people out of the band and brought people back in, and who owns what and all kinds of things. So this section, without having that plan, is super backwards. It usually costs a ton of money. And if you do hit a snag on this, it costs a lot more money to unwind it all and restart. Okay. So doing it in this order, after validation, after the plan, means you're choosing to do this at the right time with the right decisions, rather than guessing and then working it out after that. Okay. One disclaimer up front in this entire section is that I am not a lawyer or an accountant. So what I am giving you is the landscape and questions to ask, so that when you do talk to a professional, that conversation is short and productive instead of exploratory and very expensive. Okay. So let's connect it back to the plan first. The section here is operations, and it explains how business delivers what it's essentially promising. Okay. The purpose for the reader is that this is where you prove that you've thought through past the sale, that you've thought it all out from start to finish. Lots of people can describe what they sell or what they're providing. Operations shows that you know how you'll actually produce and deliver it repeatedly to numerous customers. So, what exactly does operations cover? We're looking at time and materials and logistics, how long you think things it may take to, and what they require, how long it takes to actually produce these things, and what everything is required to do so, including your space, your equipment, your supplies, your systems, your software returns, are there warranties? All of this. It ends up being a beefy section, but why does it all matter enough to write it down? Because every operational choice eventually shows up somewhere else. It affects your cost, it affects your timing, it affects your capacity, your customer experience, and your cash flow. The operations is how your business is actually running. So let me make that concrete. Choosing a pressing plant with a 6 month turnaround isn't just an operational decision. It is also a cash flow decision, because you're paying for that vinyl months before a single copy even sells. Choosing to sell merch for yourself at the table rather than shipping isn't just logistics, it's a decision about what you can physically carry and who's running the table while you're on stage. You cannot be selling t-shirts and playing the guitar on stage. I mean, you probably could with a little fan dangling and a t-shirt gun. I don't know, but you're going to have a real hard time doing it. Capacity is also the one thing I really want to flag as well, and flag it as the hardest, because in music you are usually the product. You as an artist, you are the product. There are agreements, insurance documents and leases and resumes and research and all of that that goes along with operations. So start a folder now. Keep track of everything. It will come into play with your operations plan, okay? Operations is how your business plan becomes real. The other sections of the business plan, I should say, becomes real. It is the bridge between just writing things down and saying we're going to do them and actually setting up the business and putting it into action. Now, when it comes to legal structure, your legal structure also needs to live inside the plan. And before I go further, again, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant. Nothing here is legal or tax advice. What I do want to give you is the questions to consider and a sense of who to talk to as well. This is general business knowledge. This is my student loans being put to work here, my friends. There are three common business structures in Ontario. Sole proprietorship is simple, inexpensive to register, minimal ongoing paperwork, and your business income flows right into your personal tax return as well. But there is one catch, and is a significant one. It's that the business and the owner are not legally separated. You and your business are one and the same according to the government. So that means you personally carry all of the liability as well. If the business owes money, you owe money. The business gets in trouble, you get into trouble. Um, it is super quick and easy, and you can do it all online to set up, though, makes everything legit. Partnerships are essentially two or more people operating together. It's has a similar simplicity, but with a written partnership agreement, which, by the way, contact your Barrie Public Library. They have a program called Law Depot. You can write all the agreements and contracts and everything that you want, my friends. But I know it does feel awkward to formalize things with a friend or a family member or even a close business manager or anything like that. Do it anyway. For a band specifically, or artists working with your your content, the things that you create from your brain, make sure you have those agreements in place, okay? Make sure you own the rights to all of your music. We have one very famous artist that I'm pretty sure if I mention will get kicked off of YouTube that just went through a lot over the past little bit. But even if you're working with siblings or bandmates or anything, and you're in a partnership or in an agreement of some sort with working with these people, just make sure that you have agreements in place, especially while you're all still friends. It's really great business hygiene. It just makes it so that way, if there is a partnership dispute, if everything is written down and there's no questions, there's no arguing, there's no nothing. It's just this is who it is, who owns the name, how income and songwriting work is split up, who owns the gear, what happens when someone leaves, everything. Bands tend to break up a little bit more than businesses do, so just make sure we have that good business hygiene in place. Now, corporations. As you can see, the box of corporations is a lot longer than partnerships and sole proprietors. And this is because a corporation is a separate legal entity from the business owner, okay? Legally distinct from you. That brings potential liability, potential liability protection and different tax treatment that can matter as you grow, but also brings real administrative weight as well. I want to be kind of a little bit more specific about this because me just saying that it's more paperwork is way too vague. Setting up a corporation involves incorporating either provincially or federally deciding on share structure and issuing shares and appointing directors and officers and adopting bylaws into your company. And if there are two or more of you, including for a band, which is really worth thinking about, what the share structure is, what it looks like, and who effectively owns what. So it has a much larger conversation than just setting up a business. Um, then, of course, there's also the maintenance on a corporation as well. A corporation has a minute book, which is the record of your incorporation documents and share registers and directors and shareholders and resolutions, and even annual meetings that you actually legally have to hold. And it sounds like a formality and people ignore it for years and I've seen this in businesses and have had to remind people, they go to sell, or their business partner all of a sudden doesn't want to be a part of a business anymore or wants to take the business, and they realize that they haven't structured shares and both of them are directors, which means the shares are getting scooped from other members of corporations because they forgot to establish shares, so nobody actually owns the business. There are a lot of things you have to keep on top of, when it comes to having a corporation. Okay. So do not incorporate, off the side of your desk. It is recommended, that you work with a lawyer, or there's even a program, called Owner that you can utilize as well. But it really has a lot more than just paying money and saying that the business exists. So, um, the honest answer also on which to pick depends on your risk exposure, your income level, whether you have partners or investors, and where you're headed as well. A songwriter recording at home has a very different answer from a five-piece that owns a trailer full of gear and hires crew and signs, venues and festival contracts as a group. So it really depends on who you are, where you are. The good news is too that this actually isn't permanent either. Plenty of people start as sole proprietors and work their way into a corporation. We recommend to our clients to come into the small business center to start as a sole proprietor. And once you can afford the lawyer to get incorporated, then you incorporate. But you're unsure, that's definitely a conversation that you can have with an accountant or a lawyer. It's usually short, but it usually is worthwhile. And you can come and see us too, and we can chat about where you're at, and what your best next step should be too. So once you know what you're building, the setup decisions get a lot more clearer. So let me walk you through them in order. We're going to register our name. First, we're going to check whether the name is available. You can do this either through a nuance search, but if you are registering as a sole proprietor, it actually comes part and parcel of how you're registering as a sole proprietor in Ontario. Then register through the appropriate government body as well. Here's kind of the rule that catches people in Ontario. If you're operating under any name that is not your own, your actual like birth given name, or the one that's on your ID, you need to register it. So performing and invoicing under your own legal name as an artist does not require registration. You are good to go. But operating as a band name or a label or a studio name, you do need to register your business name. One clarification too, because it does come up every time, registering a business name is not the same as trademarking it either. Registration lets you operate under that name. It doesn't stop someone else from using something similar as well. So for musicians and artists, I know this matters more than most. Your band or your label, or the name of your label is your brand. And if you're building on it, a trademark conversation is worth having before the name is on 1,000 different records. Next, of course, is your business number and your sales tax. Your CRA business number is the account number that connects you to, your tax-related accounts, including payroll and HST and your corporate income tax. HST and GST registration is mandatory once you pass a $30,000 small supplier threshold. Below that, you can register voluntarily. A lot of people do just for business hygiene reasons. You have an invoice number, you have an HST number on your invoices, you're kind of good to go and don't have to worry about it. But whether that's smart depends on, of course, your situation. If you have significant startup purchases, registering lets you claim and input those tax credits back. If you sell mostly to consumers, it means adding tax to your prices. So it's worth a conversation. Banking and protection, I do want to just touch on a little bit too. Separate banking isn't legally required for every structure, but please do it anyway. It makes tracking and bookkeeping and tax time enormously easier, and it makes you look like a quote unquote real legit business to everyone you deal with as well. Then we also have to think about protection, including insurance and those contracts I mentioned, and waivers and legal advice, um, uh, appropriate to your actual risk. And depending on what you do, license, permits or registrations, of course, may apply. I do know on a royalty side, I believe it's SOCAN and resounds on the royalty side. Venue and event permits as well, we have to look into too. And if you're promoting your own shows, home-based business rules if you're running a studio out of your house, and of course, noise bylaw that goes around along with that too. If any of this is unclear for your specific situation, that's exactly what we do. Again, reach out to us. Happy to have a conversation with you. Oh, okay, so now we are on to our third activity. We are just gonna kind of coast through it a little bit though, because I do know there's questions. I do know that we're approaching time here, but 6 boxes. The structure you're leaning toward and why on one line. Is it better sole proprietor? Do you want to give corporation a whirl? Why are you considering this? Next, whether you've done a business name check, you can do it through Nuance. If you are a sole proprietor, you don't necessarily need to do a business name check. I do recommend giving it a Google, though. Sometimes you see that a name is open and it's not in your industry, but then when you type it into Google, you realize there's a lot that also has that name, which can be a difficult feat when you're now doing marketing and social media and trying to launch a website and all that jazz. Next, your registration pathway. Are we federally incorporating? Are we provincially registering? How are we going to do this? Think about whether you need a CRA business number as well, or maybe we're just not quite there yet. Your HST, GST question too. Are you going to hit 30K in the next 12 months? If so, should we absolutely have to register. If we're not, should we do it anyway? And then, of course, insurance license and banking is your next step here too, or what your next steps are. Do you have insurance? Do you need to set up a business bank account, etc.? The goal here really isn't to have all the answers either, of course. Honestly, you shouldn't at this stage. The goal is to walk out of this workshop knowing exactly which questions you need answered and roughly who will answer them, whether it's us or an accountant or a lawyer or someone in your municipality as well. So we won't spend time on this now, but just take it away and 100% consider it while you're going through your activity booklet too. So our last section here is just preparing your numbers. It's really just a recap or a little bit of an inside scoop on what we're going to be doing in workshop 2. So here's where we're at. Today, we built the logic of the business, who the customer is, what the problem is that we solve, how you'll reach them, what you'll charge, and how you'll operate. That's real progress. And honestly, one of the hardest parts of starting a business is thinking through all of this. Workshop number 2 will end up testing everything that we did here today, testing all that logic with actual numbers or with actual is an interesting word because when we're doing projections, they're kind of make believe numbers, but they help us kind of back up our story. I do want to be clear that this isn't change of subject and it's not a math class at all. Everything you decided today becomes an input into a spreadsheet next time. Your ticket price is a cell, your merch margin is a cell, your pressing turnaround changes when money leaves your accounts is ends up being in these spreadsheets as well. So this last stretch that we're going to do today has two jobs. Number one, show you where today's decision lands in the financials so you can see um, the through line and tell you what to bring to the next session so that way it's productive rather than the theoretical essentially. If numbers aren't your comfort zone, you are in good company. Numbers freak me out as well. But I will say this, the financial side is far less about math than people fear, and far more about being honest with your assumptions, and really bringing the story home, essentially. The spreadsheet does the arithmetic. You just supply the reality behind it. So, the financial plan is the business plan in the language of numbers is basically all it is. That's the best description I've heard of it. And I'd hold on to it. It's not a separate story. It's the same story. It's just translated. The purpose of this section for a reader is verification. They've read your story. Now they check whether it holds up mathematically. In workshop two, we are going to break down five things: your startup costs, your sales forecast, your cash flow, your profit and loss, and your tax considerations as well. But there's one idea I want to plant today because it is the single most important financial concept for a new business. Profit and cash are not the same thing. Let me make that real. A business can look profitable on paper and still run out of money purely because of timing. So picture it. You've paid for studio time, paid the session players, sorry, covered mastering and pressing, and the recording is out and selling, or the record is out and selling. Your distributor pays streaming revenue on a 2 or 3 month delay. The festival that is booked, you is 30 days after the show type thing. On paper, that's a great quarter. We've done a lot, right? You've made margin in your bank account, but in your bank account, you're still in trouble right now because every one of those bills still landed long before payment day. You still had to pay for hotels and pay for tour busing and pay for this and pay for that. Even though it's common, we're making waves. There is a gap. There is a gap between what's earned and what's received. And this gap is hopefully what gets closed in these financial spreadsheets. And it is what closes otherwise good businesses, unfortunately. It's especially brutal when things start going well because growth consumes cash. You see that you're making money, but your growth strategy ends up eating it anyway. A bigger tour means more travel. It means more crew, more merch, more stock, all paid for up front before a dollar comes back into the bank. So cash flow is where we spend real time next session, or we'll spend some real time in our next session here. It is the least glamorous spreadsheet and the one that is most likely to save you. If you take one thing from this slide that I have up right here, profitable and solvent are also two different tests, and you have to pass both financially. Now, let me make the connection completely explicit because I want you to leave seeing workshop two as a continuation rather than a whole new topic. Your target market becomes your sales assumptions. How many customers, how often they buy, how much they spend each time. Your pricing strategy becomes your revenue forecast, your price times volume, essentially your marketing strategy becomes your marketing budget, a real monthly line item, not an afterthought. Your operations becomes your monthly expenses, supplies, space, software delivery. Your legal setup drives registration costs, accounting fees. and tax considerations, and your insurance, your software, and your supplies becomes your operating costs. Every section of the business plan eventually touches the numbers. There isn't a decision that you made today that doesn't show up somewhere in a spreadsheet that we're going to go over next week. And this is exactly why that guesswork matters so much. If your target market is vague, your sales forecast is fiction. And a forecast built on fiction will confidently tell you that you're profitable. However, completely on the flip side. So here's my ask between now and workshop two. Firm up two things, okay? Who your customer is and what you're charging. Those two will feed almost every single cell that we're going to go through next week. Everything else we can estimate together. Everything else we can we can change around together. One last piece of the plan, the appendices. This holds all of your evidence behind the stories, okay? Or behind the story that we told. There's three groups of materials that go in here. Your financial spreadsheets, which we're going to go over next week. Your setup documents, which is your registration, your license, your permits, insurance certificates, et cetera, and your research and your proof. I told you, save everything. It will go into your appendices, your market research, your supplier codes, resume for your crew, anything like that. And I'd encourage you to reframe how you think about this too. This appendix isn't something you assemble last minute before a bank meeting or any other meeting. We're building it as we go, okay? One credibility note here too, quotes and dates and sources also carry far more weight than the numbers you've typed in yourself. So keep original documents as well. So, really quick rundown on workshop two. We're going to be covering budgeting, cash flow, financial planning, tax considerations, and we work through it in real spreadsheets rather than slides. We're actually going to show you how to build out things. We'll talk right through each and every piece of all of our spreadsheets. So come with your worksheets for today and come with your questions. Bring real numbers if you have them, an actual studio quote, an actual pressing cost, an actual guarantee, or a door split from a show that you've played. Or the more real inputs we have, the more useful the output will be, and the session will be next week as well. So to close what we started today, again, we built the story of our business. In workshop two, we're going to test the story with our numbers. If the story is honest, the numbers will usually tell you something useful, like sometimes go, sometimes adjust, sometimes occasionally, not yet, few tweaks. All three of those answers are worth having before you spend some money, okay? So this brings us to the end of today's session. Let me leave you with this, what I do, what I would do this week while it's still fresh. Finish your customer problem, as I mentioned. Even the boxes you left blank, especially those, go back, work on your workbook. I know that you'll be working on it tomorrow as well. You will be able to use that for your numbers next week as well. One last reminder before everyone goes, before you are not expected to have any of this figured out right at this moment too. Nobody in this room does. Nobody in even my office building does. And nobody who succeeded at it ever did either at this stage. You just need to know what your next steps are. And this is exactly what this is for, okay? So reach out if you need me. I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone. I know there are questions in the chat. I will hang out for questions, but I also know it's 4 o'clock. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Sharing your experience, knowledge, and resources. For anyone who is watching this live stream publicly, We have more public workshops planned during the summer season, as well as our Barns to Beaches Showcase Tour, which is live streaming tonight. You can find more information on our website, www.canadianmusicians.coop, C-O-O-P. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you again, Kathryn, for your presentation. You're so welcome. We look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday next week. I'm going through your feedback forms. Please, please, please make sure, artists, that you get these done. Even if it's 5 o'clock tonight, sure, whatever, but that is how I'm going to be doing your attendance. So if it's not done, I can't mark you present. Does that make sense? Are we cool with that? Awesome. Okay. So next thing to do here